Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 57. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good for a Wednesday after a loss, so hopefully Steeler fans are as well. I think I'm about, after chewing up a good 5 hours of going over the All-22 tape, I think I about got it all out of my system, or will after we get done with the show today.
Yeah, we'll talk about the All-22 a little bit later. We have a jam-packed show, though, today, Dave. A lot happening since we last talked on Monday. We'll begin with some of the roster moves this team has made. They've made two of them since we got off podcast Monday morning. The most notable one is wide receiver Tevin Jones released after the loss to Buffalo. Had a couple of drops in that game, probably not his best game, and the team promoted practice squad wide receiver Amara Doba, a former third-round pick of Seattle, wide receiver out of Michigan, to the 53-man roster. He will wear number 82 to take his place on the practice squad is not, at least not currently, Tevin Jones. It is Jamal Custis, a receiver from Syracuse. I think you were kind of high on coming out way back when.
Yeah, just a guy, not so much high on. I think a guy that had caught my eye in, I don't know, like the East-West Shrine game. In fact, I thought maybe I mentioned to you, who was that that tall, kind of lanky kid, and I thought he was out of Tennessee, but it ended up being Syracuse, and I think Custis was him. So he had caught on originally as an undrafted free agent with the Kansas City Chiefs. Did not make their 53-man roster there, but a guy that's got some length and got a little bit of speed to him. It'd be interesting to see if there's anything worth working with there moving forward. I say a little bit of speed, a 4.5 40. I think he moves a little bit or appears on tape to play a little bit faster than that. Not a burner by any stretch of the imagination, but he had a good redshirt senior season there at Syracuse, had 51 catches for 906 yards and 6 touchdowns. For his career at Syracuse, though, only 64 receptions for a little over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's got a case of the dropsies, though, it seems, there. So more of what he is, a practice squad wide receiver right now. So not overly surprising to see that kind of guy signed to the practice squad. When it comes to Amara Darboh, I don't know, that came out of the blue on Monday, didn't it? Normally if you're going to see a move like that, you see that happen, I guess, on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I don't know for sure, but I kind of wonder if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came a-calling for Darboh early in the week because, they just lost Chris Godwin for some time, I think, to a hamstring injury. Mike Evans, of course, they had already lost, and Darboh had been with them earlier in the season here. So if you put, one and one together, I think you get 4 pretty easily there. And the fact that maybe they came calling on him, the Steelers obviously probably thought they have something worth looking at with him. Tevin Jones, as you mentioned, coming off his worst game. He hadn't had many games, but obviously his worst one, a couple of drops against the Bills. You probably knew already enough about Tevin Jones in the past 2 years to know what you had and didn't have with him. So that probably precipitated the move with Darboh up to the 53-man roster, and that's probably, barring injury, where he'll stay for the remainder of the season.
That was a great point. I hadn't even considered that till you mentioned about him potentially being poached. Tampa Bay makes as much sense as anything. I think you also told me about maybe Bruce Arians trying to get some revenge on Pittsburgh taking away Deontay Johnson from him. But it's interesting if we assume that scenario is true, that they thought of Darboh highly enough to promote him and not let him go to Tampa Bay and have to make a cut in the process. And Tomlin was asked about it and said, just Tomlin-like things, but said, quote, even in nature, which we work, getting in full pads and things of that nature, but he's been a good, attentive young man, so we'll see if he's capable of putting his hand in a pile and helping us in some way. Later then asked about, was it something with Tevin Jones or just Darboh? And Tomlin said, quote, no, it was more about the potential upside in Darboh. And he's, again, a former third-round pick that hasn't caught a pass since his rookie year. I think he was actually the guy referred to Jim Nagy is now the director of the Senior Bowl, but he used to be a scout for the Seahawks, and he shared a story in the offseason about how the team, whenever he was with Seattle, had drafted a receiver they were high on. They get to rookie minicamp, and you realize, oh man, we drafted the wrong guy. The guy we saw on tape isn't the guy here. And people speculated that was Darboh because of the timeline and the way that he implied things. So we'll see if there's anything there. Had a good career at Michigan. Has not done much in the NFL. I think health has been an issue as well for him. But we'll see if he can provide some upside. Tomlin talked about.
Yeah, I think even at one point after being waived by the Seahawks, the Patriots, were willing to take a shot on him, claimed him off waivers, but he failed the physical, and then reverted back. I think this was 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and reverted back to the Seahawks there after failing the physical with the Patriots, and then was waived. Cleared waivers and then went on IR for them the rest of the season. I don't know if we know exactly what the nature of that injury was. Was it a knee? I don't know if we know for sure on that, but regardless, he went back to the Seahawks to I think camp again this year. Didn't make it. Was waived, and in a couple of weeks, landed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think on their practice squad, and then made it up to their 53-man roster for about 3 games or so there, and then cut again, and that's when the Steelers were able to get in there and get him signed to the practice squad. So. There might not be anything there, but as Mike Tomlin said, he likes the upside and the potential on them. So now they'll have a look over at least the next couple of weeks here, and hopefully longer into the playoffs here. And then obviously, if he stays on the 53, he should remain under contract. Through the offseason there. So it gives him another body to maybe kind of look at.
And for Tevin Jones, what was your evaluation of him in the, 5 games he played with Pittsburgh? Didn't do anything on special teams. I thought he would be more part of the coverage unit, but I guess Johnny Holton was kind of holding that role down in the receiver room. I thought a better route runner maybe than what I anticipated, but some of the hands, the blocking was good. I thought it was bad against Buffalo, so maybe that's kind of what got him in the doghouse. But, a guy that should be a little bit more than I expected, but obviously a very low ceiling type of player.
Yeah, look, I mean, he had a couple of nice grabs there during preseason time in red zone play, kind of those skinny post type routes and all. But outside of that and that contested catch that he made, what was it, his first game up or something like that? What was it, against Cleveland? Was that
that 20, the one that set up the Washington score, right?
Right. Having that, not much there overall. I almost wonder if maybe he ran a bad route or two, wrong route assignment against Buffalo as well too. Because I think there were a couple instances there where it looked like a couple wide receivers were in the same spot. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you don't know for sure, obviously guessing there. But when you couple that together, I just think there's so many layers to why he's no longer there and why Darboh is. Bad game against Buffalo, a couple of drops, maybe not assignment sound as he probably should have been, and then you mix in the factor that maybe Tampa Bay was interested in Darboh, and the Steelers probably want to get a long look in them. So I think there's a lot of things that kind of led to that we will never know about.
Because if it was just the aspect of Darboh getting poached, then Jones probably would have went back on the practice squad, today instead of Jamal Custis. So I think there's something about Jones himself of why he's not back on the practice squad.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know. Maybe he'll land in Tampa Bay. I haven't seen anything on that, but I did write in the article about Darboh yesterday about we'll have to wait and see if Jones circles back. To the practice squad or something like that. Obviously, he didn't. So we'll have to see. Maybe Jones said, "Hey, look, maybe my future's not here either. Maybe I need to go look elsewhere there." But obviously, Tampa Bay's looking at some wide receivers as well too. Look, no huge loss if Tevin Jones is gets away here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right, Dave, switching gears now to the Pro Bowl. 5 Steelers voted to the 2020 Pro Bowl yesterday. They are center Marquise Pouncey, guard David DeCastro, defensive tackle / defensive end Cam Hayward, outside linebacker TJ Watt, and safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. All guys that I think are deserving. I think Pouncey's probably the most debatable of those names. I don't hold him nearly in as low regard as, say, Pro Football Focus, which has him as the worst rated center of the season. I think that's just outrageous and outlandish. But you can make a case for him not making the Pro Bowl this year. I'd be okay with that. The rest of the guys I think are obviously kind of slam dunks in this situation. So I know we'll talk about snubs, and my Bud Dupree and my guy Tyler Matakevich didn't make it, but for DeCastro, Hayward, Watt, Fitzpatrick, and Pouncey, congrats to all of those guys.
Yeah, and I think you can make more than an argument that Pouncey doesn't belong. Look, I mean,
but you agree he's not the 36th best center. Worst
yeah,
center.
yeah, I would go that far. Yeah, he's never. For a long time, he's never ranked well with PFF. I don't know. I don't think there's any kind of a bias in there. At least I don't think so. But look, has he been all pro? Top 5, top 10 center in the NFL for the last however many years? No. But
you don't think he's been a top 10 center?
Top 10, I think, is kind of pushing it. Maybe.
I think he's about top 5. Maybe this year a little bit lower than that.
Yeah, look, maybe they dock him heavily for bad snaps.
Yeah.
But I mean, he doesn't give up a lot of sacks, and he's a guy that gets to the second level. He's a guy that can still move out in space there. Maybe right at top 10.
Okay.
I obviously don't think he deserves it. He deserves to be in the Pro Bowl the last couple of years. I'll tell you that. But look, David DeCastro was not a leading vote getter. It was good to see him get in because I think you and I even had a discussion who's the best, who's the best offensive lineman this team has right now. David DeCastro, probably not too far behind him is Matt Filer right now.
Mm-hmm. It was a short discussion. I think DeCastro's head and shoulders above anybody else in this line.
Right. But it was good to see David DeCastro, even though he did what winning didn't garner the fan vote get in there. Cam Hayward's just having a great season. I mean, just shows up every week on film with him. Goes
not
out,
a sack guy though, right?
Yeah, not a sack guy, as Booger would say. And look, T.J. Watt, that's a slam dunk there. And Minka's just had a fantastic season. So hard to argue with him being selected in this one as well too. Now Devin Bush was a leading vote getter in his position. If he had made a few more splash plays, if you will, he maybe gets in. But I didn't take issue with him not being the selection. Obviously, Bud Dupree. Look, you can make. Bud's had a great season. Do I consider him a Pro Bowl snub right now? No, not really. I guess I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have made it, but I wasn't surprised that I was definitely not surprised that he didn't make it. Tyler Matakevich, though, that if you want to talk about a snub, that to me that was a snub because he also had the fan vote to go along with it. And not that the fan vote counts 1/3. Right. Of this. This is a guy that, and we're not talking about a one-year wonder special teamer either. Not like this guy jumped out of the blue and leading the NFL in special teams tackles. He's done it. He's been Steelers special teams leader in special teams tackles for a few seasons now here. And then when you throw in that he actually won the fan vote side of things this year, I think it is a bit of a snub when it comes to him. Now, obviously, he's just not widely known. A guy like Matthew Slater is. He's the prototypical forever special teamer for the Patriots. I think he's even had a punt block this year, and he had on another punt block, he recovered it and scored a touchdown on that one, but he didn't block that one. Just a little bit more high-profile guy that gets the coaches and everybody's attention when it comes to that. So if I was to list one snub there, it'd be Tyler Matakevich.
I'm with you. I'm all about the special teams love. Not only has he been the Steelers' leader on special teams tackles, he's the NFL's leader in special teams tackles since being drafted in 2016. So 2016 to present day, I think he's got 35 or 36 of them, which is 3 or 4 more than whoever's in second place. And a lot of those second and third place guys are guys that have made the Pro Bowl before, including Matthew Slater. Now, Slater's one of the best special teams guys of his generation, and a guy that's well deserving in the past. But I think some of that is name value, where everyone knows, not many people know special teams special teams players and names, except for a guy like Matthew Slater, because he's consistently been in the Pro Bowl year in, year out. So that was disappointing because it would have been obviously Dirty Red's first appearance there, and I think that was deserving for him to go.
And I'm sure it'll start trickling out now over the next couple days or a week or so of guys that guys that will be alternates or whatnot, because let's face it, everybody wants to get voted to the Pro Bowl. Nobody wants to play in the Pro Bowl when it comes to it. So obviously we hope the Steelers don't have to play in the Pro Bowl this year. But I have a feeling that if they don't make the Super Bowl or whatnot, that we'll see maybe a few more guys than that are in there right now. The Ravens had a ton of players selected overall. What was it, like 20-something players from the AFC North?
Oh, really? Well, Baltimore had 12. Pittsburgh had 5.
Right, so I think it was something like 20 overall out of the AFC North that made the Pro Bowl. They were easily the leading division to send players, have players selected to the Pro Bowl this year.
And the last note for that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Pouncey, Hayward, Watt, and Fitzpatrick are all going to start, and DeCastro's the reserve backup. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's the way they're listed. Yep.
All right. So if anyone caring about the Pro Bowl starting lineup, there you go. So
I always watch the game every year.
It's background noise at best for me. But
I watch it. But
get your fix. Yeah. All right, Dave. Let's move on here to Mike Tomlin, who had his press conference on Tuesday, starting with the injury report. No news is generally good news. No one new popped up. After the Buffalo game, Tomlin said just bumps and bruises. Nothing came out over the last 48 hours, so that's good. And just kind of status quo for the rest of the guys. Juju, Vance McDonald with a knee and concussion respectively, trying to work their way back. Tomlin leaving the light on for both of those guys. Is that a pretty fair assessment of the Steelers' injury situation?
Yeah, I think you and I would both, just based on past concussion and, the way they've handled some of these guys with protocol, we would think and hope that barring anything, serious like a setback or something like that, that Vance McDonald will make it back this week. As far as Juju goes, I don't know. You got a coin in your pocket? Got a quarter?
Yeah, heads or tails.
We can flip here, and I would like to defer. By the way, let's defer.
Yeah. Right. We get the ball to start of both halves.
Yeah. But I have no clue about Juju. To have the kind of thing happen to him last week and then to turn around in 1 week and play the next week, I think I would be a bit surprised by that now. But we did go into last week thinking, oh, he's probably going to play. So I don't know what way to think on that with him. But the fact that he went backwards last week in the middle of the week and didn't play, I'm not that optimistic right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what Tomlin said, quote, "And Juju's still dealing with his knee injury. He was able to participate some last week. I think he was a full participant on Wednesday, but had to scale it back as a result of that work. We'll go through the similar procedure this week. We'll put him in an environment. We'll work him. We'll see the quality of that work. We'll wait and feel the ramifications of that work and then make judgments accordingly based on performance and or health." So it's just basically Tomlin's long-winded answer to saying, we'll see. We'll practice, and we'll go from there.
And it sounds like later on he was asked about James Conner and said, look, he's good to go now. So I wouldn't expect James Conner to show up on the injury report. I mean, I would think that barring the guys that normally get kind of the Wednesday rest, not injury related, if you will, guys like Barron and Pouncey today, I would suspect maybe those two guys show up on the injury report as not practicing, not injury related, and then Vance McDonald and Juju being the other two on it. It doesn't sound like we're in store for any other surprises. At least we don't think, judging by what Tomlin said. So a healthier team, and the guy that I think that we'll probably be watching all week will be Juju.
Yep, all eyes on number 19. All right, getting back to Tomlin and the rest of his press conference, the thing that really irked me of all the things he said was when he was asked about the run-pass ratio, and this answer, I guess, was kind of predictable, expected from Tomlin, but, Tomlin was asked about, why were you guys so pass-heavy? And Tomlin said, quote, you're going to pass more when you lose, and so that's just the reality of it. We didn't anticipate it being that way, but we didn't anticipate not being in control of the game through the latter part of the third and fourth quarter. So it was what it was. It's not how we'd like to function, particularly under the current circumstances in terms of our youth and inexperience, a quarterback and receiver, but that's how the game unfolded. That's partially true. Obviously, after Buffalo took the lead with 8 minutes to go, you kind of had to start passing, and you had 2 drives at the end of the game where you have to throw. But I did the math, and prior to Buffalo taking the lead with 8 minutes left, the Steelers had thrown the ball 64% of the time. Buffalo, in comparison, had run the ball about 54% of the time. So the Steelers had still passed it a lot, and more than probably what they needed or should have done prior to the game circumstance forcing you to throw. So I think Tomlin's answer here is off the mark.
It makes the nerds happy, right? It makes us nerds happy because I keep saying that teams normally they run the ball more when they win.
And that's why I generally don't look at the balance stuff, and I defend some of that stuff because you got to do what it takes to win. But in a game where you're facing the number 2 pass ranked defense, and you have to run the ball to succeed, and I think even Benny Snell talked about after the game how the game plan was to run the ball a lot and run the ball effectively. And then prior to the game circumstance ever being out of whack at all, really even trailing, you're throwing the ball 64% of the time. That's not game circumstance. That's your own play call. And so for Tomlin to deflect and put it all on just the game circumstance in a game where you were never trailing by more than 7 points, I think is just wrong.
When you go into the tape and then you go into the play-by-play and break it down and start looking at the way the sausage was made, you don't like it. Look, a couple of those runs really were telegraph runs at that with the Wildcat, right? Why in the hell was that even brought out again? I don't like that aspect of it. And look, a couple of those go in the books and run. They did 3 in total. One was, of course, wiped out by an illegal motion penalty. And with that, why the hell can't you get that aspect of it right?
Well, because you got a cornerback there. You got someone that hasn't done it in a while. I'm okay with the Wildcat in principle. I was just not okay with the fumble in the sense of you had Connor at quarterback and Deontay Johnson at running back. You're putting 2 guys in foreign spots. You're asking for trouble.
Right. And that's obvious. I think we made note of that the other day when kind of going through this. Why the heck do you have a guy in there that's missed the last, several games, expected to kind of, you want to look, you're telegraphing it anyway. Why not put Samuels in there, a guy that's used to doing it?
Right. Yep.
And why put a guy back there with them? Who are you surprising by putting Johnson back there anyway? On top of it. Now, when you go and you look specifically at let's say second down runs, how many second down and long situations did they have that they chose to pass on? They had a 2nd and 10. They had a 2nd and 5. They had a 2nd and 8 that they threw on. They had a 2nd and 15. They had a 2nd and 8. They had a 2nd and 13. They had a 2nd and 3 should have been a run. That was 13-28 in the third quarter. And I'm just looking at raw down and distance here. Okay. But you would think on 2nd 3, that's an ideal down and distance to run on. Am I right?
Yep.
What about 2nd and 5?
Yeah, I think it's a good down and distance to run on.
And they did that with 8:18 left in the third, and that ended up being a drop back and a sack on that play. A 2nd and 2 with 4:06 left in the third. They did that little pass short left to Johnny Holton that got him a yard. I think they could have ran and got more than a yard. How about you?
I think so.
On 2nd and 2. Let's see where else. Obviously you get into the fourth quarter. It's a little bit more understandable why you're throwing in some of these situations here. Look, they could have carved out at least I think 5-6 more runs, right? At least before the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed to be the game plan going in based on what players have said and not the game plan they held to once the game started, despite the score being even, the Steelers having a lead. I mean, there wasn't a game circumstance issue that was going to force you out of that. I guess the first half I don't have a whole lot of gripes about, but it was really the third and fourth quarter where I thought things got weird, TJ Watt forces the fumble mid-third quarter. Steelers have 1st and 10 on their own 31. They do 3 straight passes, get sacked twice, and have to punt. end up losing 6 yards in that drive. So, I mean, why are you doing 3 straight passes? That's curious to get the ball back. They have a 1st and 5 run after a encroachment penalty. Then they throw it on 2nd and 2. They get a 1st down on 3rd and 1. The Hodges sneak. They throw it. 2 of the next 3 plays. They have a 1st and 10. Buffalo 43. They're throwing it. Gets picked by Trey White. That sets up a field goal for Buffalo. They get the ball back. So they're down by, I think it's tied at that point. It is tied at that point. It's 1st and 10. They throw it 3 straight times. They punt. I mean, that's the stuff that bothers me. So again, the overall numbers, to throw it 64% of the time prior to the Bills taking the 17-10 lead, that is not about game circumstance. That's your own game plan. And so for Tomlin to blame it solely on the box score, which again, the Steelers never trailed by more than 7 points anyway, I think it's just plain inaccurate.
Look, we went into this thing thinking this is a very good pass defense overall, not only in coverage but a team, and I really thought that the Bills should have done what they did, and that's go after a young quarterback on what seemed to be kind of obvious passing downs there, and they did that, and they did that successfully too. The thing is, though, you can run. Don't hand me this BS about stacked boxes, because they have run against a lot of stacked boxes this year.
Yeah, I get a little pet peeve about stacked boxes, because obviously if you're coming out in 12 and 13 personnel, you're going to have stacked boxes. That's not the problem. The problem is just box count. I mean, if you're even, then you're expected to block and win that one up. So yeah, you're going to face 8 in the box when you have Zach Banner in the game, but that's fine because you're bringing your heavy guys in too. So the issue is in the stacked box. The only issues you're going to have is if you're -1 in the box count, where you have 1 fewer guy to block than they have inside the box, which wasn't the case.
Right. And where was the damn power at? Where was you got a Pro Bowl right guard, right? That has no issues pulling 10 to 12 times a game. Normally against 4 down teams, you've had success in the past, and on tape, it was shown that the Bills have had a little bit of issue out on the edges as well too. And overall, they just have not been great overall when it comes to run success against other teams that are running backs. We just didn't see that. We saw Connor get loose on a couple of early runs. And look, if Connor was your guy, and if he was healthy enough to play, then damn it, have him in there and play him and run the bread and butter stuff that you run with him. The run success overall, if you look at the running backs, I think was right at 50%, Alex. Now,
oh really?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, how many total runs were there by running backs?
14, I think, not including the Hodges sneak. Yeah, I mean, did you see the article I had on Power yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, there was, I thought it was only 2 initially with the, with 1 each to DeCastro and to Foster. I think it was 4 in total, 3 with Foster, the guy that, I mean, look, I've stuck my foot in my mouth several times, in the previous years with Foster and saying, look, I'm not so sure he's the guy that you want pulling the majority of the time. And then he comes out the following week and pancakes, the Ravens or something, on a pull. But I mean, look, he is what he is right now. He's kind of a lumberer still. He's always been that. And it takes him a little bit more time. And when we see him get defeated, he's a guy that's easy to run around or duck under.
He struggled.
When he pulls. So what are you trying to just outthink yourself there and say, they're expecting, I don't care if they're expecting it. Run it, make them show me that they can stop it. And look, was that Bills defense probably geared up to maybe stop the run and force some passes? Yeah, but you never really made them prove it overall that they could stop the run,
Right. Yeah, again, ran power 4 times for -1 yard. Foster pulling on 3 of those. DeCastro only pulled once the entire game. That just seems unacceptable, even though it was poorly blocked overall. I think you got to try it a couple more times, at least with DeCastro, pulling your best athlete on the move on your bread and butter concept. So that was surprising overall. Again, I don't complain about run pass rates too often. And if you have Ben Roethlisberger a quarterback in this game, I probably wouldn't really care at all, because it's Ben But obviously, it's a big difference between Ben and Devlin Hodges back there against this good of a secondary, and you just put too much on the guy's plate. And so I think that was just a bad game plan in a game where you knew, and I said this prior to the game, the team that ran the ball more effectively and more consistently was going to be the victor overall. Buffalo did that again. Prior to them taking the lead, they had run the ball 54% of the time compared to Pittsburgh at just 36% of the time. That was the difference in the game. Buffalo finished the game with, I think, 120, 130 yards on the ground. Pittsburgh with just 58. Josh Allen sacked just once. Hodges sacked 4 times. I thought the game plan was obvious for this one based on everything, and the Steelers just seemed to abandon it as soon as the game started.
Look, they and I said this the other day, watching the game the other day, Buffalo was exactly what we thought they were.
They played to their style. They played to the way they knew had to be the winning formula, and Pittsburgh didn't.
And the Steelers didn't look like they knew what they wanted to do on the offensive side of football there. And look, they damn sure didn't have an answer. They said, okay, we're willing to try to take on. We're willing to throw this much. So that means we're willing to take on all the stuff that comes with it. I guess we're in the all 22 portion of the breakdown now of the show, aren't we?
Well, anything else from Tomlin? I mean, do you want to bounce back to him?
Let me just wrap this up real quick. Sure. It was obvious just in raw TV tape that they had issues handling the pass rush and the blitz. You dive into the all 22 and you really see that the Bills did a great job of mixing up, of sugaring up what they wanted to do up front, and the Steelers just had no answer for it throughout the game, and they ended up with Hodges having to bail the pocket so many times, and how many of his attempts were just throwaways. So not if your game plan was to come into this knowing that you might have to throw a little bit more in the middle of the game, which I don't think they went into that planning to do, and I think Benny Snell pretty much said as much. They sure handled it wrong. There was especially a lot of those blitzes there. They played catch up all game of trying to figure out who was coming.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit more later on because I wrote a big article about all the issues today and how it relates to a game from about a decade ago. But to go back to Tomlin, I guess I should mention, and I kind of forgot about it because I thought it was just kind of a given. Duck Hodges has been named the starter for the Jets game. I don't think that's a surprise. I think we both agree that's the right move. I think you give him a chance to bounce back, which is basically what Tomlin said, referring to how Mason Rudolph, after that terrible Cleveland game, got the opportunity to bounce back, and Hodges deserves the same. So I think we both agree on Duck being the starter, correct?
Yeah, look, I said the other day he should remain the starter, and you would expect Tomlin to get asked about, does he have a quick hook and all like that. No, you shouldn't go into it thinking that you're going to have a quick hook or commenting that, if he gets off to the slow start, we're going to pull him.
Yeah, I've gotten the short leash comments so much. What does that even mean? Do you practice it differently? Do you tell Mason, hey, get ready? Do you tell Doc, watch out? I mean, none of that's going to help your team win and succeed. You don't, I think I agree with what Tomlin said. You come in with a plan for success, not failure. So, I mean, if you don't need to have a plan of a short leash. If things are that bad mid-game, you know it, and you'll be in the moment and you make the change the way that you did with Rudolph. So you don't have to have this weird plan or this statement, declaration of a short leash. That just is going to hurt your team, not help you.
Yeah, what do? You go tell your backup, we want you to be a little more. We want you to be.
I think that's what 110% means.
We want you to go to 11 this week. Right, we want you to be one more ready than you normally are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's
it's meaningless.
It's a meaningless question that suffices the masses, I guess.
Yep.
Because look, I mean, here's what it boils down to, and it boiled down to the game against the Bengals that Mason got that got benched on there. You're coming out of the bad game against Cleveland. You're on a long week. You're really thinking that, man, maybe this, we'll see what this kid can do. Obviously didn't play well, had his worst game ever after Cleveland. A long week. A lot of distraction that come along with that week with the fallout there. But look, but we drafted him. We liked his moxie. We liked the way that he bounced back in college. Let's see if he can. We're good. He deserves a chance to do it. He is our guy. Well, you go into the first half of the game against the Bengals. Didn't play well, but even so, you're saying, okay, we'll come out here this second half and let's see if we can get him going here. Well, as soon as he made that one, he would have still been in that game, I think, if not for that throw to Deontay Johnson on the left side. I mean, that one throw, you wince, because that's an easy throw that he has to make, and he just put it right, ground ball to shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
That was a signature moment that screamed, "Get me out of here, coach."
Yep.
And they did. And, obviously came in, got a call, two or three plays later, got the spark from Hodges. And once that toothpaste was out of the tube, you don't put it back in. He won you a game. He's won ever since. Yeah, I mean, look, he's not throwing for 300 yards a game, but I mean, who in the hell expected that? But now you're in a situation. You don't go into this thing and say, look, Devlin, if you don't get it done in the first half here, I'm going to go to the lefty in the bullpen. Kind of thing here. But on the flip side, these next two games are very, very important. You're on the cusp of a playoff spot. Yeah, both of them technically maybe not must-win games, depending on what happens. But as far as controlling your own destiny, they are. So if you get into a signature moment, and I think that's what it has to be, is a signature moment the way Mason's was, then I think then and only then you pull them. But if you don't get to kind of a signature, man, this kid lacks confidence. He's just off the rails right now. Then you got to stick with him right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Hodges can't be benched at some point in this game or maybe week 17. I'm just saying you don't go into the week with the game plan of, okay, Hodges has this short of a leash, or if he does X, Y, and Z wrong, we're going to pull him. Again, that doesn't help you to succeed. He's your guy, so let's plan for him like he's going to play well, not that he's going to fail. If he fails, you have a pretty easy, solution. You put in Rudolph, that's fine, but let's build a plan around, putting the guy up, that we're starting and having him play well and letting him succeed and stay in the game. So again, short leash, I think it's just one of those meaningless things like we like to talk about in the media, but they don't really mean anything when you talk about how does that apply to a team and their approach.
Right. I mean, it's okay for us to sit here and say, okay, if Hodges has kind of that signature moment the way Mason had, maybe you want to if you're losing, he's thrown 2 interceptions or whatnot, made some bad decisions. But no, I don't think you go into this thinking, oh boy, Tomlin needs to have a short hook here if the Steelers are down 10-7 at halftime.
Yeah, you can't have your quarterbacks looking over their shoulder every time they throw an incomplete pass. I mean, that's just not going to help.
And that's what I said right from kind of the get go. When Mason in that game against the Dolphins, you got to let these guys work through some of this. And like I said, if you go back to that game against the Bengals, if he makes that throw to Johnson on the left side instead of ground ball to the shortstop, he stays in that game. I'm pretty convinced. But that was a clear signature moment that screamed, "Get me out of there." And unless Devlin Hodges has one of those same kind of moments, then he's going to stay in this game.
Yep, I agree, and as he should, because remember, I think I said it before. I thought the lore of Duck was a little greater than his play, but then I think after this week, everyone wants to bail on the guys if he's been total trash this whole time, which he hasn't been. So I think the truth is always in the middle. That Hodges has played reasonably well, that he had a bad game against Buffalo, but that doesn't mean he can't bounce back and that there aren't better days ahead.
Right, and look, we'll see. We'll get to see this week. Against a fairly good defense that'll get after you again.
Yep. Last thing from Tomlin, I wanted to point out, he was also asked about Marquise Pouncey's snaps, which again were a bit of an issue in the loss to Buffalo, including on the Deontay Johnson fumble, the one that talked about ground balls to shortstop. That was one that rolled right to James Conner. Tomlin pretty much downplayed it and said, if Ben was back there, it wouldn't be an issue because Ben's always had a good control and catching with one hand and stuff like that. But, said that we have to minimize those things because Ben isn't back there. So, listen, I get you're snapping the ball, for Pouncey this year, probably 800 sometimes with the suspension over 14, game span. But you got to be better than that. You got to help your quarterback out, and you can't have bad snaps because they have hurt this team this year in pretty substantial ways.
Yeah, that's not the right answer that he gave.
Yeah.
His answer should be, look, it's something that it shouldn't be that, Ben's a great Tony Pena. Do you know who Tony Pena was?
Baseball player. One of the Pena brothers. Little brother.
Tony Pena was a great catcher for the Pirates.
Okay.
For several years, had a very unique style where he'd get down real low. He'd stick one leg way out to the side, and he'd be able to get behind the plate real low. A very very good bad ball catcher.
Do you think he could catch today for Pirates? They need some help.
But yeah, it was a wrong answer there to say, well, look, it's okay because he had Ben back there covering up the mistakes, and that's why we haven't talked about it.
Well,
no,
Ben's not there now, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Let's work on getting that better. And even Pouncey after that game against the Chargers, when he gave a ground ball to Hodges that Hodges thankfully was able to corral and get thrown out of bounds to save down and distance. In that situation there, I'm up there busy trash talking. Was his excuse and all like that. Look, you got to get better at that, man, because how many times have we and we have talked about it before.
Yeah, I mean, it was the Rams game, obviously that snap that went over Rudolph's head turns into a touchdown. You had the Chargers game, the low snap that rolled in the ground last week against Arizona that Hodges had to reach for and then throws a touchdown to Deontay Johnson, the low snap on the Deontay Johnson fumble this past week. I eventually start saying, okay, this is more than a small issue. It's something that has to get corrected.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, well, you peeked behind the curtain and you saw that Ben's not there, and then now these snaps are it's not okay to say they've always been that way. Fix it.
Yeah.
Fix it. That's all I want to know. Fix it.
Yep, I agree. Fix it for sure. Okay, Dave, where do you want to go now? I think that was basically it for Tomlin, unless there was something that you wanted to add in there.
Just the old, what does he say about the running back? We have to divide the labor up among the running backs a little more decisively. We had some question marks about James' availability. Did you really have question marks about James' availability, about Jalen's availability? And I think it hurt us from a prep standpoint. And I think subsequently I thought we had some issues from a blitz pickup standpoint. I thought Buffalo, what is it? What is it there?
Samuels and Connors practiced in full all week, right?
Yeah, didn't they?
I mean, Connor did, and I think Samuels was maybe limited the early part of the week, but then practiced in full and declared himself good to go, I think, on Wednesday. So, I mean, you knew you were going to have those guys.
So, why, and that's why we even thought one of those running backs was going to be down,
Mm-hmm.
Was it that much of a question mark of who was going to play? And why was the you're setting yourself up a little bit there going into it, not knowing how you want to use the backs there.
Right.
And then you get off to a great start with Connor, and then you decide, well, we still don't, was it because we don't know what we're going to get out of him? Because, is that how going to affect the divisional labor? If you were that unsure about Connor's availability, he should have been inactive, and you should have rolled with the same thing that's been getting you by for the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it goes back to just not running the football enough. When you had all these backs, guys that have played well, Connor played well overall, and you just didn't run the ball well enough against a run defense that was vulnerable. You tried to throw on 38 times against the second-ranked pass defense, and I think you get what you get when you have that game plan.
And I think if they were that question about Connor's availability, they obviously wanted Connor up because they like his pass protection more than probably anybody else there right now in the backfield. And then they admitted or has since admitted that they didn't. They were kind of surprised at the way at the amount of pressure that Buffalo sent. So just overall, it was just a excuse my French, piss poor offensive game plan going into this. No kind of decisive goal or foresight into what you wanted to do. You're talking about we had division of labor. What does that even mean? Either these guys are healthy enough to play or they not. I like to hear after the fact that kind of question marks about this and question marks about that. All that stuff needs to be settled before game. Maybe that played into them not having confidence in the run. But I'll tell you this: I've seen Kareth White run behind the power. Okay, I've seen Benny Snell run behind the power, and be fine. Why couldn't you done that in this game? Why couldn't you put James Conner behind it? But you look at a couple of those runs that James Conner had, man, that he looked fine to me.
Mm-hmm. And Tomlin says he wasn't on a rep count, on a snap count. Now I understand, you want to be careful with it first game back, make sure he comes out of that one feeling okay. But I think he could have played more. And again, even if it's not him, then sure, Benny Snell, who's come in and played well. I don't know what the game plan was. I don't know what their core concepts was. I don't know what their approach was. It just felt very haphazard.
Well, I mean, you're telling me you have question marks about Connor's availability, but he's not on a snap count.
Mm-hmm. Benny Snell says they're going to rotate all those guys in, and they don't.
Right.
For the most part. So yeah, the game plan just seemed just shoddily put together. And I'm sure they had a plan, and things change when you get inside a game and all that. You see what works and what doesn't, but they never figured it out.
Yeah, what's the old saying? Everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth once. Well, they really weren't. Heavily punched in the mouth in this game. I mean,
they were punching themselves in the mouth for most of this one, really, Dave.
While doing it over the shoulder at that. Yeah. Now, look, I mean, you get yourself there, and we knew, and we've been saying it for weeks. How is this offense going to play, and how is this offense going to play when they don't get a turnover? If we get a turnover, we're ecstatic. We're thinking, okay, well, surely they'll be able to bury points in some form or fashion on plus field situations here. And what do you do in one of those extreme plus field situations? You try to run a wildcat with two players that not used to touching the football in that situation. That's just setting yourself up for fail. Now, obviously, that thing could have went for a touchdown, and I don't know how results biased we would have been if we even be talking about it. I would hope that we'd be talking about, boy, what were they doing back there with Connor and Johnson running a wildcat on that touchdown play there. But obviously, when you get a turnover as such, and it's the third wildcat play that you've had behind two that were already disastrous, then it really gets you scratching your head there. Man, if you just come away with a field goal right there, it's big. And what's funny is you go back to early in the press conference there with Tomlin anyway, talking about a couple of key plays, in that game, one of them being that fumble in plus territory on the Wildcat play, and I think the other one was him talking about Tyson Alulu popping that ball out on the ground and them not recovering it, and then 2 plays later, the Bills are in the end zone there.
And he also talked about the Trey White interception down to the 18. And what were the 2 plays, the 2 drives I mentioned on Monday show that, if you take those away, even you could have 3 turnovers. But if you eliminate the Deontay Johnson fumble, which removed 3 points from your scoreboard, and the Trey White pick that gave Buffalo 3 more points on their scoreboard, that totally changes the complexion of the game. So you still could have won that game even with 3 turnovers. You had them in very crucial moments that took away points and put points on Buffalo's board.
Right. You don't have many margins of error with this offense, margins for error.
I mean,
sure.
You kind of did, because again, you could have turned the ball over 3 times and still been in great position to win that one. You just did it in the most critical situations that, again, you punch yourself in the mouth when you ask Deontay Johnson to play running back. You punch yourself in the mouth when it's 1st and 10 on Buffalo's 43 and you're trying to throw far hash, out routes to Deontay Johnson against Trey White. Like that, those are just, I think, self-inflicted wounds.
Right.
Anyway, to go to the All-22, Dave, is there anything that you want to talk about? Otherwise, I have a big article on Steelers Depot this morning that breaks down what you mentioned earlier about basically how Buffalo just broke the Steelers' pass protection.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've hit on a lot of this already offensively. I think the one thing that is now stuck out throughout Devlin Hodges' play this year, from the 8 yards past the line of scrimmage and on down, he's just not throwing inside the numbers. Okay, is that purposeful? Probably to some degree. They probably don't want him throwing a lot in there, and I'm not calling for him to throw 7 times a game in that situation. But I think teams are starting to realize now that this guy's what the Steelers are trying to do here. They if they don't get to, and where was the short screen game at in this last game anyway? Why couldn't you use?
They tried it once with Connor and it went for -7.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't mean you give up on it, completely. Where was the short dump offs? Where were the quick slants against some of this pressure? Where were some of the things that allows the quarterback to get the ball out of his hands quickly
Mhm.
In some of these situations here. So, can you win games with him continuing not to throw inside numbers? Yeah, I suppose, but you damn sure better be running the football good in these situations moving forward here. I mean, we've hit on a lot of things offensively that have stuck out on tape. I didn't think the blocking, outside of pass protection wise, which I think you're fixing to get into here,
Mhm.
wise, I didn't think that the blocking was overly bad. Look, the touchdown to Connor, that was dialed up nicely. You get your quarterback on the move real quickly there. You have a nice little kind of a rub instance with your couple of tight ends with Gentry and Vinette on that side. You're creating something that we've talked about quite a bit recently, is that's getting the ball in the hands of your players out on the edge in space in one-on-one situations and letting them win. And that's exactly what happened on that touchdown to Connor. You get it out in the hands, you scheme it up where you get it out in his hands out in space where it's one-on-one, and he won. All right,
Mhm.
that's what you need kind of more of. I think you got to get the ball in your players' hands there, and I think teams are just kind of catching on defensively that, oh yeah, Devlin Hodges for the most part is an accurate quarterback outside the numbers. He likes that. He loves that 12-yard out route. He loves the deep balls down either side against cover one situations. But what else is he doing?
Mhm. Yeah, I thought the run blocking wasn't particularly good either. Vinette, I thought, struggled again. I mean, the whole lineup front did, but what really irked me was the pass protection. And I thought it was not an issue of just the players screwing up. I thought the players were okay in a lot of aspects, but they were simply outcoached. And I think the overall philosophy from this game is that both sides of the football, the Steelers were just outcoached and out-schemed. And it basically my thought is, if you get sacked a lot, you get a lot of pressure because, let's say, your offensive line just doesn't do a good job. Let's say Villanueva misses a chop or whatever, and it's just an individual problem. That's on the players. But whenever you're in a situation where schematically you don't have answers to the problems that the defense is throwing at you, that's on coaching. And I went through a real long article on Steelers Depot that basically breaks down how, despite having a six-man protection, the Steelers had no answer and no game plan for some of these nickel and edge pressures that Buffalo brought again and again and again. The Steelers just had no answers, no response, no adjustments. I mean, there was this cat and mouse game, like you said earlier, Dave. They were constantly trying to play from behind. They were trying to protect against these inside linebacker rushes. The linebacker would drop, the nickel corner would come, and it wouldn't get picked up. Now, I think there were some player issues with that. Matt Filer had a horrendous game. There were some real just head-scratching decisions he made that invited pressure that shouldn't have happened. I thought he was just downright terrible in pass protection, his recognition. But overall, I've never seen this team get out-schemed and kind of just be so helpless in terms of their lack of answers for the blitz schemes that Buffalo is bringing in a really long time. So we broke it down about this edge nickel pressure that Buffalo brought, and I was trying to think about the last time that I've seen the Steelers look that bad in pass protection. And the game that came to mind for me was 2008 against the Eagles, where Ben and Byron Leftwich were sacked combined 9 times. I'm sure you probably remember that game. Oh, yeah,
the old Jim Johnson game, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I was thinking about, okay, who was the coordinator for that game? It was the late, great Jim Johnson, one of the best defensive coordinators in recent football history. And I was thinking, wait a minute, who else was on that staff? And because what happened was in 2015, Larry Zerline, the former Steelers O-line coach, who was the O-line coach in that 2008 game, actually had a video that explained what went wrong in that game. And Zerline said is that the Eagles schemed up a new pressure that the Steelers weren't prepared for. It was an inside linebacker and a nickel or safety edge rushers that they just didn't have blocked up. They didn't anticipate it. They didn't have an answer for protecting it. And I was thinking, okay, so we know what happened on that play. And I was thinking back to that Eagles game and saying, Jim Johnson was the DC for that game. Who else was on staff for the Eagles in that 2008 game? Who was the linebackers coach for the Eagles in that 2008 game, Dave?
The linebackers coach in 2008. For
Philadelphia. Yep. It was Sean McDermott who was the head coach for Buffalo on Sunday. And so what did McDermott do? He took Jim Johnson's game plan from 2008, bringing inside linebacker and nickel pressure against a six-man protection to stress and overload it. And the Steelers, again, just as they did in 2008, did not have an answer for it. And so it made me think of that. And again, this was the first game all year long. I know people have said it all year long because, I think it gets a little too trite and too easy to say. But this is a game where I really missed Mike Munchak because Sean Surratt was just simply out-schemed and out-coached.
Boy, I didn't realize Sean. I thought McDermott was a little bit younger than what he is. I guess he's 45. So that would have put, he was with the Eagles from, let's see, he started with the Eagles 1999 as a scouting administrator coordinator. Do you realize he was the assistant head coach in 2001?
I did not.
At least that's what it says here on. We all know Wikipedia doesn't lie, right? Defensive assistant and quality control 2002, 2003. Assistant defensive backs coach 2004, 2006, and as you stated, went from secondary coach to linebackers coach. So this is a guy who knows his way around a defense pretty good.
Yeah, but the Steelers. And so, again, he took the same exact blitz scheme, or basically the same scheme, from 2008, 11 years ago, and applied it to Sunday. And the Steelers, again, had no answers. I know this is tough to explain because we're getting into the intricacies of blitz pickup and protection. So, again, check out the article on Steelers Depot because it has videos and pictures and kind of everything really broken down step by step for all these instances. But the Steelers stayed in their six-man protection. They had no answer for it, and they should have done one or two things. Zero Line said in that 2008 game, they switched to a seven-man protection, which kept a tight end in, which helped pick up the nickel blitz, or have a built-in hot route. And the Steelers did neither of those things, and it cost them. And that's why Hodges was pressured so much on third down, led to a lot of throwaways, led to interceptions. The bottom line is the Steelers had no adjustment to what Buffalo's doing in terms of their blitz schemes, and I think it cost them the game.
And it didn't look, we don't know for sure. It didn't look like there were many checks or alerts going on either, right?
Right. Well, in the six-man protection, because it's only a six-man rush or maybe even a five-man rush in some instances they're facing. So in theory, on paper, you're supposed to have this thing blocked up because it's 6-on-6 or 6v5, six blockers versus five rushers. You should be okay. That was the same philosophy in 2008. That's why there wasn't a hot route because they're saying, we're even. We're 6-on-6, we're 6-on-5. We don't need a hot route. You only need a hot route when they're bringing maybe seven and you only have six in the block, or they're bringing six, you only have five in the block, when you're outnumbered. But when you overload it and when you scheme it up to confuse and stress and conflict the protection, which Eagles did in 2008, the Buffalo did on Sunday, then you don't have a hot route and you don't have it blocked up correctly. So it's not about just the numbers of having the numbers to block it up. You have to have the scheme to block it up too. They're two different things. And in 2008 and on Sunday, the Steelers failed.
Boy, there were a few times where it looked like that James Conner didn't know which way to go.
Well, he's stressed. That's what they're doing is they're bluffing the A gap with an inside linebacker, and they're either going to rush him and force Conner to stay in, or they drop it out. And by the time Conner's able to realize that and get over, he can't get there in time. Or there were some times where actually the Steelers played it well to their credit, and Connor Samuel saw it and then tried to come off and get the nickel corner. But then twice, for some reason, Matt Filer would come off his responsibility of the defensive end and try to pick up the nickel corner or the safety rushing in, which left Samuels and Filer blocking both the DB, the DN coming in free, and it led to a pressure and led to a sack. So again, Matt Filer had a terrible game. So even in times where the Steelers were able to correct it and on paper schematically block it up, players screwed it up. And so the Steelers were just playing from behind all game long. It was just an absolute mess. Check out the entire article because it really kind of breaks things down.
Yeah, got to go inside out there because it takes longer for the guy out the edge to get there than the guy from the inside getting there.
Right, yeah. The tackle has to stay do his job. The tackle shouldn't be blocking DBs when running backs can block DBs. You can't expect a running back to block a defensive end on that play. So again, even in times where they had it figured out, Filer twice. The first time, okay. First time you didn't see it. The second time, I don't know how you screw that one up. It was really bad.
And then you saw early on, boy, Edmonds coming just scot-free, right up the middle there. So, yeah, definitely some protection issues in there, which screamed, run the ball more, But obviously in some of these situations that they got themselves into in second and longs and third and eight, third and sevens or longer, couple much longer than that. Obviously, it allowed Buffalo to pin their ears back in a lot of those situations as well.
All the examples I showed in the article were third and fourth down, like in long, so you couldn't really run the ball there. Yeah, on that one where Edmonds came up the middle, the first time they bluffed the blitz, they dropped Edmonds out, and they brought the nickel corner, so they said, okay, Pittsburgh said, okay, he's going to drop out. So then the next time they showed that look, Connor was focused on the nickel corner, and they brought Edmonds that time, and they didn't have anyone to protect them and to block that one up. So again, there was this cat and mouse game where the Steelers were just playing behind the entire game, never had an answer, never had a response, no adjustments, just simply out-coached, out-schemed.
And we go back to late in that game on that second to last second or last interception that Devlin Hodges, you go back, you look at the all 22 on that. We talked about could he maybe have gotten that football out to James Washington? To me, I think going back and looking at that, it's a little bit much to ask him. Now, could he have anticipated maybe that would have been the better route, the better target, and then position himself to get it there? But post snap there, he's already looking at Kane down the left side of the field there, and by the time Washington even starts crossing face in the middle of the field situation there, I mean he's got Connor pass protecting sort of in his lap there. I'm not what I'm getting is I'm not convinced he could have changed platform and got that to Washington on that throw.
Well, he didn't even have time because the nickel corner was coming in free. Because again,
exactly.
there was no one.
And I put on Twitter that he would have had to extend to his right.
Right.
And even then, you're kind of doing it you're doing it opposite of where the block ahead of you with Connor, kind of trying to angle his guy out. So you would be leaving the oncoming pressure on one side and kind of going into a player possibly coming off of a pass protector and running back the other way there. So it would have had to been a quick kind of escape, set and throw, towards the corner there to Washington, and you're probably going to have to put a little bit of air on that anyway. On top of which, of course, gives the safety maybe a little bit of time to get over there as well too there. So I just think overall that was just in other words, I don't think that was a legitimate option for him to hit.
No, not with the pressure that he was facing. He's got a free rusher. And again, this was in Buffalo bringing in their inside linebacker with nickel pressure, and the Steelers have nothing in the blocking scheme to account for the nickel rusher. There's nobody in the scheme that's supposed to be able to pick him up. They're all doing their job elsewhere, and Buffalo knew it. And the Steelers made no adjustments in terms of their protection scheme, and Buffalo kept hitting them with it. And so that play, I think, sums it up better than any others, where, yeah, Washington might have been open, but if you pick up that nickel rusher, maybe Hodges can get off his first read and find Washington. But because that guy's unaccounted for, Hodges has to basically throw it to his first read, which is a jump ball throw for Deon Kane that gets picked off.
And now you get a defensive coordinator this Sunday, Greg Williams, who we all know is not afraid to throw things out of the kitchen at you. He'll throw the toilet out of the kitchen at you.
Yeah, I sound frustrated. I don't get on rants too often, but maybe I do. But it's so they were so outcoached. I mean, Buffalo was just toying with them. I just haven't seen it happen in a long time like that. And really, again, I think you have to go back to 2008 to the last time I've seen it this bad. And it was the same issue, and it was by the same guy basically. And it's just frustrating because the Steelers just didn't have the answers, and that's disappointing.
Well, then you're playing into their hands too by not by not running the football on top of it. The one thing that really stuck out in this game, once again, I hate to go back to it, is Buffalo were who they were, and especially running the football. They did a good job of staying ahead of the chains, and when they didn't, they just punted the football, away, no issues. And when they took over in plus territory, or even when they didn't, they made a couple of and look, you flip over to the defensive side of football sometimes, playing some zone situations there against them in third and long situations and just rushing your regular four was allowing them to out scheme you on the other side as well too. Look, you only want to send four against us. You want to play some zone and have somebody spy on Josh Allen there. We're gonna keep some extra protection and chip your best edge rushers to give our quarterback some time, and we're gonna convert to a hole, and they did. So that's just another instance of not changing it enough, maybe even on the defensive side of the ball, or allowing at least a quarterback a longer look at something to beat you in get off the field situations.
What were your thoughts on the Tyler Kroft touchdown? What's your evaluation looking at the all-22?
Well, luckily Mike Tomlin gave us a huge clue on that, the other night. That is that it was a zone coverage, at least on that side. So knowing that, or at least thinking that even in some pattern type situations there, that and knowing that Edmonds looked back at somebody, we don't know who, he was expecting somebody to carry that a little bit deeper to help close off that corner out there. So in theory, if that was a true kind of zone situation there, then the corner to that side should have gained depth overall in that, and that would explain Barron diving back down for the running back on the Texas route, on the angle route there. So in theory, in my head, it's twofold. It's Edmonds kind of being a little bit of flat-footed in the situation, and B, not squeezing off that hole enough by the corner, not gaining depth.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one to figure out, but I'm basically with you. I think I was too harsh on Edmonds reacting after the play. To have a safety in cover two, try to defend that corner routes are really difficult because he has to play everything. He's got to play the seam, he's got to play the post, he's got to play something backside by the trip side, coming to him. He's really got no chance. So he reacted to it basically as Croft broke the route. I mean, there was just no way to defend the sideline on that play. I really lean towards putting it on Joe Hayden. I mean, I don't know for sure what happened there, but I'm with you. In cover two, you got to sink and get depth. You see the back come in the flat. You got to know something's coming behind you, and so I think it's on Hayden for not squeezing that throw, like you said, and making that a tougher play for Josh Allen, because that was an easy throw for Allen.
Well, look, when you have both of them breaking you just got to break it down into its rawest form. You have two guys going after one guy. Mm-hmm. One of those two did the wrong thing, and then you have Tom and Tanya that it's zone, which it makes sense looking at the positioning of the safeties, and then once you look at the all 22 of what's happening, and then a couple other clues going back through the game and the all 22 view there. Hayden's not afraid to gamble at times. I think he thought maybe that there's no way in heck that was going to go over to the corner there, that maybe the pressure would prevent that from happening there. I think he thought, I'm going to steal one here and jump this back on the angle route instead of gaining depth there. Either that or he missed or he thought there was a call in there that wasn't in there as far as kind of matching there. But overall, and look, even if he gains a little bit of depth there, I mean, that throw may be still there.
Maybe, but it's a lot tougher. He chased the back, and I don't know. Either Barron was screwed up for not carrying that route, but I don't think so because it was zone, and he's playing his hook zone, and he's not going to carry that one all the way to the corner. That should be on the safety in the corner now, squeezing that throw, and Barron now comes off the tight end to take the back underneath. So to me, if it's basic cover two to that side, then Hayden's got to get depth in that moment. He didn't. He chased the flat, and that made it an impossible situation for Evans to make that play and made it an easy throw for Allen to make.
And the thing is, too, I think one thing you could kind of look at, kind of more common sense situation with Edmonds to maybe kind of be able to cheat that a little bit.
I don't think you can cheat that because you don't know what the route's going to be. You don't know what's coming backside from you.
Yeah.
I mean, he broke as soon as Croft declared the corner, but he's just too much ground to make up. And when Allen can make a low line, direct, immediate throw to the pylon, I don't think Edmonds has a chance. I don't think any safety has a chance. Even if it was Minka, I don't think he's got a chance to make that play.
Yeah, I just think maybe you could have maybe cheated a little bit better. But
like pre-snap? What do you mean by cheated?
Just post-snap. Post-snap. Kind of
like before Croft declares the route.
Yeah, I think he could have played that. Look,
but you don't know that the route.
No, but here's the thing. You got to look at what's coming your way, and there's really, Croft is really his only concern on that. On that play, because once the back comes out in angles, that's over for that. So you're not having to worry about the middle of the field situation as much on that. So, but once again, look, I mean, that even if Hayden gains depth in that situation, that's probably gonna be a makeable throw.
Maybe. I mean, it's at least going to be, I think, more contested. Allen has to think about it. My biggest gripe overall was just the idea of playing cover two on some of these third and longs. It happened earlier in the second half on the John Brown, which was a straight cover two, which I think Nelson needed to get more depth on. But still, you're playing straight cover two and you're getting these hole shots against you. I mean, what do you expect? So I think the idea of playing soft zone coverage with no reroutes, no physicality, in today's NFL, if a quarterback has time in the pocket, which Allen did, he's going to make those throws. I mean, he's a talented first round pick. He's going to be able to beat you with his arm. So I think the general concept of playing this soft zone coverage is almost as problematic as the players not executing themselves.
They were just asking for it in that on that 20-yard completion to Brown.
Yeah. Now again, I think Nelson needed to get more depth there. It's 3rd and 10. Let him throw the flat to the running back. That's fine. Rally and tackle the cash, get off the field. But when you play soft zone coverage and on that play, the Bills did a great job to be able to chip Dupree and Watt, force those guys to align wide, and then get chipped by the back and the tight end to really just give Allen a clean pocket to throw from. But again, I think the idea of playing soft zone spot drop coverage is really troublesome in today's NFL, especially on 3rd down. And
it kind of gets away at kind of who you are anyway. In those look, you're trying not to give up the big play, I know, but you gave up a big play.
I think they're playing zone because of Allen's threat to run, and they want eyes on the football, which I get, but to play, I don't know. I'll take my chances. I'll play with a spy. I'll play 2-man and dare Allen to run on 3rd and 10. To play soft coverage like that is just tough pill as well.
And it's not like he's. I mean, it's just that he's willing to run. It's not that like he's Lamar Jackson out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean he's a threat. I'm not going to deny he's a threat, but I'd rather cover it and dare Allen to run than not cover it and let him throw and beat you with his arm.
Okay, with where else was it going to go there? Look, I mean, you had 2 opportunities. I mean, you had you give an offense one more chance, and look, I mean that's what they're paid to do too. They're paid to scheme up and make plays in situations like that, and on that first down play, Lulu knocks that ball on the ground. And then on 2nd down, Lulu again gets the pass defense there. So you have him in a third and long situation from where was it? The 14? Was it? Was it a 14?
On the Croft touchdown, yeah, it was 3rd and I don't know, it was at least 10 plus 14, something like that.
Right.
3rd and long.
Get after his ass. Make him get rid of the football.
Yeah, the pass rush. And again, they both did a good job of being able to spread things out. They forced the Steelers linebackers to play off ball and drop into coverage more than probably what Pittsburgh wanted them to do. So they again, this just goes back to them out scheming Pittsburgh. I know on the scoreboard it was a close game. People can say, "Oh, it was a close game, came down to turnovers," and yeah, obviously that's true. But the scheme Buffalo had really induced some pressure, created some turnovers, and that Croft touchdown was Buffalo out scheming Pittsburgh. Steelers had run cover 2 on 3rd and long throughout that entire game, including on that John Brown touchdown earlier in the 3rd quarter. So Buffalo knew what they were going to get, and they had the scheme to beat it, and they did. And that's where I said Buffalo's coaching staff did a much better job than Pittsburgh's.
Sure.
So anything else from this game?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get any arguments out of that.
Yeah, but I just, I got some pushback from people saying, no, they weren't out schemed. It was just you turned the ball over 5 times. But when your pressure creates half those turnovers and the touchdown you allow, the game-winning score is, a schematic mismatch in Buffalo's favor, I think it's pretty easy to point out, the scheme created those big plays. They didn't just exist in a vacuum. It's all, based on the play calls.
All right, what else do we have left over from that?
Not a whole lot for me. Anything else in the All-22 you wanted to look at? I think that the tight end blocking, Vannett, I thought you did a fine job as a receiver. Showed a little more power and physicality than I'm used to seeing. But as a blocker, I'm just not seeing it with that guy. I mean, he's got some tough matchups against some of these defensive ends. But Jack Lawson isn't a huge guy. I mean, he's a 3-4 outside linebacker previously, and I just thought Vannett was a poor blocker.
Yeah, I've said that for how many weeks now? Just I'm not seeing it with him. I'm not saying, and I kind of questioned it after dealing for him and looking at his tape with the Seahawks as well too. Just I understand liking the guy, but I think they like him a little bit, maybe too much. And at this point right now, he's not under contract next season. It shouldn't take a lot to get him back under contract if you like him that much. At this point. And look, even Vance McDonald's been underwhelming. Last year I wrote about they sure didn't the instances. They didn't use Vance McDonald as much in run situations as a blocker, especially in 2 tight end situations. They chose to go with a Okorafor more. Okorafor and Jesse James more in 2 tight end situations there. And initially when McDonald arrived, I can remember, especially on some power and some split zone runs, thinking, man, McDonald's a better blocker than what I thought. Right now we're in a situation where neither one of these guys, in my opinion, who their best tight end blocker is Zach Banner.
Ain't that the truth?
Right now. And, you're obviously not going to send him out on, he's not going to put the fear of God in people out in pass pass coverage when it comes to worrying about throwing to him. So you know, them in two tight end personnel groupings, they've not been. I haven't broken it down, obviously, yet a lot as far as personnel groupings and run success percentage and all, but it can't be great out of two tight end situations there. So they're going to have to decide, and especially starting this week against a team that's still likely to come out at them again. Are you going to want to try to run more 11? More 11 personnel, and then have some hots built into this, and then try to do a better job of running out of 11. I think they should. I think we should see more 11 here, and I think they should try to run more out of it, and build in more a shorter passing game into that on top of it.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, and I'm okay looking longer term of just letting Vanette go after this season. I mean, it sucks you traded a 5th round pick for him, but why throw good money after bad and re-sign him if he's not going to be worth it? So I take really anyone else at this point. I don't mean the fawn over Buffalo here, but man, Dave, I would love to have Lee Smith as a Pittsburgh Steeler right now, big number 85, 270-pound tight end, moving bodies in the run game. I wanted them to sign Lee Smith in the offseason when Oakland cut him, but the blocking from the tight ends have just been really abysmal.
If you're going to have a second tight end that's going to be in there primarily in run situations, then you want the Matt Spaeth type.
Yeah, and in this system, if you're a tight end, even if you're a starter, but certainly if you're a backup, you got to block. Like, if you can't block, you can't play in Pittsburgh. Like, that's just the bottom line.
Of course, they could have solved this problem a couple of years ago, but...
Well, I know your George Kittle days. Never be, only in your dreams, Dave.
Look, I mean, I'd take Jesse James back over Vanette right now, to be honest with you.
Yep, for sure.
And plus, on top of it is he's familiar with how to play bin ball on top of it now. Because a lot of the big receptions he's had has been on extend to play situations with Ben. What have we seen Vanette do? And look, I mean, Vance. We came into this season saying, boy, Vance, and obviously not having the quarterback there hurts. But at this point, I'm beginning to wonder if they shouldn't part ways with Vance come March.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, how do you address the position then? Do you go sign somebody? The tight end market is going to be hot again. Do you draft somebody?
I think you draft somebody. I think you go ahead and I mean, you should be able to have a chance to get Jesse back. You should have a chance to be able to get Vanette back. Re-sign those guys for pennies on the dollar. And then draft you one and maybe sign you another borderline free agent guy to see if there's anything there. But
I don't know. I'll stick with Vance for another year. I think he's gotten a raw deal. I mean, he hasn't played well. Let's be clear about that. But with Ben coming back and
if you're one of those ones pushing to get Dupree back, I know where you can get a little bit of money towards that.
Well, if it came down to that, yeah, if you had to cut Vance to keep Dupree, then maybe that changes the discussion. I don't know if you have to do that. I don't know if that's what it would come down to. Obviously, I'm going to cut guys like Chickalo. He's long gone. But I don't know. I just feel like it's creating more problems. And I know Vance can be an asset. Like, he's proven himself to be a capable player. I just think it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year for a lot of guys in the pass game.
And he's still going to drop some footballs.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Like I said, he has not played well. He's not played well this year, and drops have been a part of that. No doubt about it.
And then there's the whole health issue. How many games a year are you gonna, is he gonna miss?
I mean, he stayed pretty healthy this year. I mean, he's got the concussion, but it's hard to hold a concussion against him. I mean, it's something really out of his control. He's actually been healthy, I think, he missed one game last year, and before the concussion this year, how many games did Vance miss? One?
Oh, I had to go back and look. But look, they if they're gonna continue to use two tight ends this year, they're gonna have to learn how to use them better.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to touch on with the L-22, just to go back to Hodges. Obviously, I know we're both in agreement that he should start, but I was watching this game, and obviously it was a bad performance. We all know that. In big picture, you look at the box score, you're not surprised by that. But I did see some concerning things, some things that actually, and this is unfortunately not a compliment, reminded me of Mason Rudolph. Sliding in the pressure I saw from Hodges, not reading some simple progressions. He couldn't read a Hank route and threw it was actually an accurately passed football, but it was a bad read on that play, which are the same issues I broke down down with Rudolph. So it's going to be a really critical game for Hodges because he's regressing and doing some things that he wasn't doing earlier in the year.
It seems now he's going more to, or at least in the Buffalo game, looked like he knew where he wanted to already go with the football pre-snap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was getting locked on the reads. He was being slow with progressions, and even some simple stuff that any quarterback should read. A Hank concept is an easy read for a quarterback. It's a very easy progression read, and he just wasn't seeing things. And he's got to be better.
I think he got to the point where, man, I'm getting pressured, so I gotta make a read and go with it pre-snap and go. Because of the tight pressure, instead of sitting back there and reading it and going through his progressions on. Yeah, I mean, look, we saw Rudolph progressively get worse as well too. In situations, especially when the pressure was coming at him. That's why I said, you remember that stat from Next Gen Stats that showed, at least through the first 2 or 3 starts that Hodges had that he wasn't facing a lot of pressure. Overall. Now he is. And look what's happening there. And once again, you play a defensive coordinator in Greg Williams, nothing to lose right now. Casino Greg Williams, might as well call him this week, because he's gonna go after Hodges this week, especially after what he saw that the Bills did defensively and getting after him. He's going to turn it loose this week. So the Steelers have got to have a better answer for that. And I think, personally, I'd like to see him run more 11 personnel, try to run out of it, try to build in, try to identify this stuff, get a couple of slants, get the football in the hands of Deontay Johnson on a quick slant or James Washington or what have you. But there are going to be instances in this game where you just can't sit back and wait for the cover one situation to go up over the top. You're going to have to get the football out of your hands a lot quicker.
Well, I will say, it starts for me just on a protection standpoint. You better fix those protections because they're broken right now. It's on tape. Certainly the Jets are going to see what Buffalo did to them last week. They're going to test them with the same nickel and linebacker combination blitzes and see if Pittsburgh responded. Now, you would hope and expect the Steelers to make the change and get better, but they're going to be tested, certainly. But, yeah, I mean, the Jets, you know what Greg Williams is going to do. He's going to play cover one. He's going to put the free safety in the parking lot because that to the line's like 25, 30 yards downfield. He's going to pressure the heck out of you all day long. He's going to see if you've corrected those mistakes. He's going to test a young quarterback coming off a bad game and see if he's got the mental toughness and aptitude to get better. So, I mean, the game plan, you already know what it is. Now it's a question of just can you go out there and execute.
And look, that Jamal Adams all over the place, man.
Yeah, what did Tomlin say, 6 sacks this year?
6.5. He's second on the team behind Jenkins over there.
Oh, Jordan, what's his name? Jordan Jenkins, Jonathan Jenkins. Yeah, I mean, 6 sacks for a safety is unheard of. I mean, I don't know the last time a DB's got 6 sacks in a season. We thought Mike Hilton was a good blitzer. I mean, Adams is probably top in football.
He leads the team in tackles, defensive tackles too.
Yeah.
Adams. So I mean, he's going to be a guy floating around close to that line of scrimmage quite a bit. In this game there. And once again, Greg Williams. If I'm Greg Williams, I'm the Jets. I get after him because look, this is going to be another one of those games where points are probably going to be a premium here. They've got a good, they're going to probably try to do a lot of things offensively that the Bills did. That means try to get 4 yards on first down via Le'Veon Bell. Try to use their running backs out of the backfield to catch the passes. Try to make things. Try to not leave Sam Darnold back there, to be exposed in third and long situations a lot in this game. So I'm studying the hell out of that Buffalo game tape if I'm the Jets.
Yep. Did you enjoy as much as I did the way that Tomlin just so nonchalantly talked about Le'Veon Bell in his press conference? Like, yeah, Bell's a good receiver. He's a hard guy to tackle. It's like, yeah, we know Tomlin. I think we're all on the same page when it comes to Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I didn't think he did anything wrong in that.
No, I just made me laugh the way that he just made me laugh. And then they were talking about tackling Le'Veon Bell. I don't know the last time a Steeler tackled Le'Veon Bell in a training camp, but I don't know if any of those guys have ever done. Maybe Cam, but that's maybe about it.
Yeah, I didn't think he did anything wrong.
No, I just laughed at the way he just nonchalantly described it. Just it made me chuckle.
What else did Tomlin have to say that was kind of relevant here?
I think that was about it. I know I want to talk playoff scenarios because you have a really good post that outlines what needs to happen these next 2 weeks for Pittsburgh to get in. Before we do that, though, Dave, let's talk about our friend Goodies Popcorn. I know that's been a really popular provider and sell for us, so go ahead and then plug it.
Yeah, absolutely. And boy, he's gotten quite a bit of feedback, great feedback from listeners of the Terrible Podcast as well. And he's got a new promotion now. He's going to stick with us here through the holiday season. And if you're late to this and you don't know who we're talking about Goody's Original Popcorn. You can find Goody's Original Popcorn, and that's GOODYSLV, LV meaning for Las Vegas, because that's where Dave and his company is based, here in Las Vegas. A good local small business, gluten-free, non-GMO seeds, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese. I don't know what all that means, Alex, but I think it's probably good for me on top of it, and that's a good thing because I got about a $25 a week popcorn habit ever since I'm running into to Dave out here in Las Vegas, and I've made no secret about what my favorite flavors are as well too. The spicy buffalo, man, that stuff is addictive. You get you a nice tall glass of sweet tea next to that, and boy, you're in for a nice snack there. He's got that. His caramel popcorn is out of this world. He's also got some Fruit Loop flavored popcorn, which it's just unreal how much that it tastes popcorn that tastes like Fruit Loops. I mean, it's just that simple there. You look at his menu here and the other flavors that Dave has: extra butter, cheese, spicy buffalo, jalapeno cheddar, white cheddar, salt and vinegar, dill. Salt and vinegar potato chips, I think, are real kind of popper up kind of your neck of the woods there. I was never a big salt and vinegar kind of guy there. And dill pickle, I've never been a dill pickle fan, but he's got dill pickle flavored popcorn, loaded baked potato, pizza, chili lime, kettle corn, churro, Fruity Loops, caramel, sour nerds. And he's got a mix of cheese and caramel as well too. You're not going to go wrong by ordering some of Dave's Dave's Goody's Delicious Popcorn here. And he's also got a special now, Alex, I want to tell you about.
Mm-hmm.
Now until 2020. All right, till the new year, all new orders will be put into a raffle for a chance to win an authentic Speed Steelers helmet. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So he's going to have a authentic Steelers helmet that goes. He's going to put all these order numbers into a raffle from starting today up until the start of the new year. And to make sure you get qualified, you got to go to goodieslv.com. That's GOODYSLV.com. Place an order in there, and then use promo code HELMET. That's easy to remember there. Promo code HELMET. And you'll automatically get put into this raffle. And it's only going to be listeners of the Terrible Podcast that are in this thing as well, too. So however many orders he gets, that's your chance to win this Steelers authentic helmet that he's got set aside. And we will announce the winner the first show, I think, after the new year on the show. We'll announce the winner of that. Obviously, Dave will be trying to get in touch with the winner as well there. So really, look, you got a couple weeks left until Christmas here. You're looking for that last minute gift for somebody in your family or somebody at the office, or why not give them the gift of popcorn? You can't go wrong that way. So check out goodieslv.com and order some great popcorn from our buddy Dave.
Absolutely. I didn't realize that raffle was going on. That's very cool. So I hope you guys enter, and I hope you guys win. Okay, Dave, let's jump to playoff scenarios. I know you outlined in a post last night about the Steelers' playoff scenarios for these final 2 weeks. I'm going to take it step by step here and just say, if the Steelers do this, you tell me what the scenario is going to be. So if the Steelers win their next 2 games against the Jets and the Ravens, they will make the playoffs, correct?
All right, let me take my shoes off here.
All right, let me give you an hour.
Yeah, look, the most simplest way to get in is, win the next 2 games against the Jets and the Ravens. If they win, they are in as the number 6 seed. And look, the only way they can get into playoffs is as the number 6 seed in the AFC.
Okay, gotcha. So let's say the Steelers go 1-1 their next 2 games. What has to happen for them to get in the playoffs if they go 1-1?
They can lose either game and they can win either game. If they go 1-1, in the next two games, as long as the Tennessee Titans lose to the Houston Texans in Week 17, then they get in as a number 6 seed. So pick your choice. Pick a game, any game. Lose it. As long as you win the other one, then you can get in as long as the Titans lose to the Houston Texans in Week 17. Now, here's a note. The Texans can win the AFC South Thursday. I put Thursday night. That should be Saturday. My apologies. I just accustomed to these Thursday night games. But Saturday, the Texans can win the AFC South if they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, hopefully they will still have some. If that happens, hopefully they'll still have something to play for seeding wise in Week 17 against the Titans. And I think that they do, right? I mean, they're still in play for, I think the Texans maybe even still in play for the second seed, right?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure they're still in play for the third seed, which currently I think right now belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs.
That makes sense.
So even Saturday, regardless of how things transpire this week, if the Texans win, I think, and don't hold me to that, I think they'll still have something to play for in Week 17. And that's obviously what we hope for if they win the division, if they beat Tampa Bay. Obviously, if they lose to Tampa Bay, they're going to have a lot to play for in Week 17 against the Titans there. So really it makes I don't want to say that the Week 16 game between the Titans and the Saints is meaningless, because coming to the next scenario, that could wind up being in the picture here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's jump to that next scenario, which would be worst case for Pittsburgh, where they lose to the Jets and the Ravens. So now they're, 8-8? This scenario seems to be messy, obviously, but how did the Steelers get in the playoffs in that situation?
Yeah, math.
Yeah.
God forbid the Steelers lose their next two games. They can still capture the number 6 seed in the AFC should the Titans lose out to the Saints and the Texans in the next 2 weeks. The Indianapolis Colts win their next two games against the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Browns lose just one of their final two games, which are against the Ravens and the Bengals. And the Raiders lose only one of their final two games against either the Los Angeles Chargers or the Denver Broncos. So we're going to be getting deeper, heavier into this kind of those scenarios if the Steelers lose this week to the Jets.
Okay, help me understand this one. Rooting for the Colts, rooting for these teams to lose 1 or 2 games. That's all in relation to what, strength of victory? Why does that matter?
I think it runs into the tiebreaker situations of all the teams being 8-8. And conference and common games, those kind of things.
All right, I'm taking it in the rabbit hole there, but okay, so fair enough. And then there's another scenario where if they lose both their games, they could still become the 6th seed. Is that correct?
Yeah. Should they? It's a lot of the same scenarios in there with as scenario number 3. However, they can still get in with having a better overall strength of victory number than the Raiders do. Once again, this assumes that everything else transpires. The Browns lose one of their 2 final games to either the Ravens or the Bengals, and Pittsburgh at least ties the Raiders in overall strength of victory. And right now, the Steelers' current strength of victory is .308. With 34 wins, and the Raiders' strength of victory entering Week 16 is .327 with 27 wins. So obviously that strength of victory, I think, is related to other teams that those teams have played and how they finished out the final two seasons here.
Gotcha. Okay, so
2 weeks, not 2 seasons.
Given the complexity of scenarios 3 and 4 and how kind of intertwined they are, let's assume the Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs if they lose their next 2 games. So the most likely way for Pittsburgh to get into this thing, the easiest way, obviously, is winning their next 2, and failing that, winning 1 of their next 2, and then Houston beating Tennessee Week 17. So those are the most likely scenarios to play out these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're sitting there waiting for number 3 or 4 to happen, God help you.
Good luck. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, it means the Steelers have lost both those games, which is a disaster in itself. And then you're getting a lot of help that's almost certainly not going to fall. That's one heck of a parlay there. So, yeah, best way to get in, obviously, to win out and you're in, or go 1-1 and then have Houston beat Tennessee in Week 17. Those are the scenarios.
And look, we talked about this either a show or two ago. Even all that's transpired this season to date, even all that's transpired this past week against the Bills, and all, it's to me. I think fans at this point now should be disappointed if this team does not get into playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think really the only question at that point becomes, are you disappointed if they don't win at least one game in the playoffs? You've gotten yourself in this primo position, really with 3 weeks remaining. You had an opportunity. If you put the Bills away, you really increase your playoff chances at that point. But now you're even with that loss, you're in a position now where you've got a great chance, especially considering. Look, we're all Baltimore. We agree we're all Baltimore Ravens fans this week, right? I mean,
who are the Ravens playing?
The Browns.
Oh, okay. Oh, in the sense of we're fans so they win and they bench everybody for Week 17.
Yeah, for Week 17. I mean,
yep.
People are writing in the comments on the site and on Twitter. Oh no, I don't. Regardless, there's no way this game will mean too much to the Ravens to keep the Steelers out. You think they really give a crap whether or not the Steelers get in versus the health of Lamar Jackson?
Right. No, they don't care about that one bit.
Are they going to pull Brian? Who was it? Several years ago, Brian Billick, in one of those games, foolishly tried to get Jamal Lewis the rushing. That was a unique. I think that was more about him trying to get some. And maybe there was a little bit of vendetta in there to keep Pittsburgh out of playoffs. But John Harbaugh would be absolutely foolish. Now look, you only have a 53-man roster, right? So some guys have got to play, but there are some guys who don't need to play.
Yeah, and it's already been reported that they're going to sit Lamar and probably others in Week 17 if they have nothing to play for.
So as much as it goes against the bone in some people's body to root for Baltimore, you should be rooting for Baltimore to beat Cleveland this coming weekend, because if that happens, they sew up the number 1 seed, and like it or not, that Week 17 game against the Steelers becomes meaningless, and you have to like the Steelers' chances of winning a game against against the Ravens offense without Lamar Jackson than with Lamar Jackson.
That's the understatement of the year. Now, granted, Pittsburgh did a nice job against Lamar. I know people will get on us for that. We're not forgetting that, but obviously you'd rather face RG3 than the MVP.
All right, so are they going to make it in?
I hope so. Like you said, it would be disappointing because
are they going to make it in?
Oh my goodness! I was asking this question a couple weeks ago. I couldn't get an answer. I don't think. Yes, I think because I think you're at least going to go 1-1, and I think you have a good chance to go 2-0, and then you can get help if you only go 1-1 with Houston beating Tennessee in the finale, which is no guarantee, but certainly possible. So I think the odds still say yes. It's more likely than not that Steelers get in. They're the 6th seed.
Are they going to get in?
I said yes. I think the odds are more likely than not. Well, what do you think?
I think they get in.
Yeah. All right. Good. Fair enough. By going 2-0 or by going 1-1 and getting help?
I think they go 2-0.
Yeah, I think there's a really good chance of that as well. But those are the scenarios. Again, 2-0, you're in. 1-1, Houston's got to beat Tennessee in the finale. 0-2, sacrifice your favorite animal or something. You get a goat because that's going to take a lot to try to get in. All right, Dave, let's get to some read emos to close up the show.
Oh, Lord, we got a few of those. I forgot we still got that portion of the show to go. Let's see here. We'll get to Jonathan Mason first. Alex and Dave, we could make arguments for Duck and Mason, but at this point, it's just about not turning it over. Is it just me, or does it seem like Randy doesn't put the team in best situation to win? It was obvious that the best drive of the Bills games was the first and the second half that mainly went through Connor. Then they went away from that. The personnel he uses and play calls just don't make sense too often. Thanks as always. Yeah, you can. And he's also P.S. Sean Davis over Terrell Edmonds. He's got in here in the P.S. here. Look, I think Alex and I laid it out. I don't think they did a good enough job with an overall going into this with a game plan. The whole running back, distribution that Mike, Tomlin talked about, just to boil it down. As simple to not running the football enough, mixing in some of those. That Wildcat should have been dumped after the Devlin Hodges penalty on that, in my opinion. There, not being able to handle the pass protection situation that goes beyond just Randy Fichtner.
That's on Sean Surratt.
That goes beyond Randy Fichtner as well, too, there. So, look, ball this up into however you want to ball it up, but it goes on the entire coaching staff, especially on the offensive side of football there in their preparations against the Bills this past week. And, look, people say I think the thing people got to remember here, and it's not a cop-out, but, I mean, you got an undrafted rookie quarterback here that you're dealing with here. I don't know how sophisticated and what you're expecting out of this kid.
No, that's point taken. I've said that before. It's a difficult situation for any coaching staff to be in. But again, you were just out schemed, you're outplayed, you overthought it. You threw the ball too often. Again, 64% right before the game circumstance kicked in. You were outmatched and outclassed in terms of your pass protection. Defensively, even in pockets, you were making bad decisions, and really Buffalo took advantage of the scheme that they knew the Steelers were going to play. It's just really, I think, a failure across the board, including Mike Tomlin, because the buck stops with him.
If you want to protect your quarterback, what's he like to say? Limit his exposure, then limit his damn exposure.
That's a good idea. Now again, they can bounce back. I mean, I don't want to be so overreactionary. I mean, this team still could come back from the grave from being 1-4, and if they went out and they're in the playoffs, then it's still a wildly successful season. But just in a vacuum for that Buffalo game, that was a game they really should have won. But I thought just they were outcoached, and that was the difference, honestly, in the game.
You're going to have to scheme up your running game here in these final two. You're going to have to find a way to run the football. You cannot stay behind the chains and get in these third and long situations or these second long situations, or you're going to have a repeat of what happened.
Yeah. Now, it's going to be tough because the Jets have the number one run defense in football, so it's not going to get any easier.
No.
But I agree. And that's why probably scheming up is even to be more important because they got the talent up front to stop the run.
You better figure out a way to run the football. And I'm not talking about Wildcat.
Yeah, but I'm honestly still okay with Wildcat. Just don't do receivers and running backs. I mean, let's simplify this thing. Let's give it to guys that have done this before.
Brett Nile writes in, hey, Dave and Alex, quick thought after Friday's podcast. I'm hearing you guys correctly. You believe Dupree is worth $20 million a year on the open market. If that's the case, shouldn't that make the franchise tag a pretty easy decision? If nothing else, you could sign him and trade him to the team that would have paid him $20 million, ? Ends up being, look, you just don't press the easy button, Brett. This isn't Madden. But I mean, I see where you're getting from. Ends up being a deal for them. They can still get a third round pick back if he walks after the season. To me, he's worth $20 million. You can get him for $16 million. You do it. Also gives you more time to draft a replacement. I know from a cap perspective, you may not want to do things it takes to make it happen. But in this case, you should probably do it if you really think he's a $20 million kind of guy. I don't think it even goes up to the price tag. It's whether or not you want this guy back at the $16 million franchise tag, and whether or not you can make the franchise tag work. And that's been my preface the whole time, Brett, is if you want him, you can tag him, you can make this work. Okay? But the thing is, you got to go into this knowing that there's a potential that he'll wear the tag all season. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way you got to go into this. I think you're trying to string this out too far and say, well, if you think he's worth 20, he's worth 16. You either want the guy or you don't at the tag number. And then you go from there. However, if you do tag him and you want to work out a long deal with him, then you're getting into the realm that you better accept the fact that at a minimum, it's going to cost you $18 million per, probably a little bit more than that overall. And then, you got work ahead of you in other areas of guys that you want to re-sign as well too. But look, I mean, if you want him for just 1 year under the tag, you can do it. Now, whether or not you're going to be able to trade them underneath the tag, I think you don't know for sure that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a scenario that's realistic. No,
you don't tag them with the idea of trading them. Right. Is what I'm getting at. You're tagging them because you want to keep this guy.
Yeah, I think the critical point there is, yeah, if he's worth 18 million over a long-term contract, why not just tag him for 16? Well, as you said, Dave, how do you wear the tag for 1 year? That money's all in 1 year, and you can't spread it out and have a lower cap hit maybe for a year one over a long-term deal that's worth 18 to 20 million dollars per season. So that's the difficulty of the tag. I think it'd be very, very tough for them to be able to wear the tag for just 1 year and have a $16 million cap hit on Dupree and trying to juggle everything else.
I mean, you could do it.
I'm sure you could,
I mean,
but I don't know how you get there.
it's just tough,
I mean, you're doing a lot of cost cutting and coupons there to try to make it all work.
And once again, I think none of this takes place first without putting a tag on him. So I think that's the first step of the process here is putting a tag on him. Let's see. Bryce writes in, hey guys, this Bryce definitely missed an opportunity Sunday night. Too many mistakes, not playing smart football. Couple questions. I would love for a reporter to ask Tomlin or Randy Fichtner, what is your go-to identity offensively in the red zone? First, I'd like to get in the red zone. First, yes, the injuries are a major factor, and credit to this team for piecing this offense together. But going from number one in the red zone last year to dead last this year, players play, of course, but with a drop off that big, I placed emphasis on scheme coaching. Your thoughts? Look, they did it. I just mentioned they did a great job on the touchdown to Connor. Okay, now flip over to what the Bills did to the Steelers on the Croft touchdown there. You ought to be able to scheme things like that up,
Yeah. I don't know what their core concepts are in the red zone. I don't know what their go-to plays are. It doesn't feel like they really have any. I mean, they have stuff they rep and they pick out their favorite plays each week, but I just don't know what their go-to plays in that situation are, and that's why you have the 32nd ranked red zone defense or red zone offense in football.
I tell you what, it's not. It's not Wildcat. With Connor and Deontay Johnson there. That's what it's not. Look, you should be a running team,
Mm-hmm.
run. And we saw the tight ends be able to be used earlier in the season in the red zone,
Yeah, I think you gotta scheme it up better. I think you gotta have more combination routes, easier progression reads. I mean, I haven't done a deep dive into identifying sole, red zone issues. I just know they haven't been effective down there. And for this offense to get to an average level of play, which I said is where they need to be for a playoff run, they got to be better on third down because they're 25th in the NFL on third down. They got to be better in the red zone where they're dead last in the red zone. I mean, you can't have a good offense, even an average offense, when you're that woeful in those two critical areas.
He goes on and says, I got to call out Sweet Feet Sean Surratt as well. Him along with Fichtner couldn't figure out Leslie Frazier in that front seven. Yeah, we already hit quite a bit on that. They really didn't have an answer for that. Frazier consistently got his guys in position to break down our protections, and we did not adjust well enough to it. With Greg Williams up next, you can expect more of those same blitzes with Duck as our starting quarterback. Yeah, I mean, we already hit on that, Bryce. As far as that goes. Let's see. Rob Jones writes in, last year during OTAs and minicamp, all the footage of Ben showed him looking like he was the best shape of his life. The sideline views of Ben now show why he can be called big. Should we all be concerned besides him having to rehab his elbow? He's going to have to work on putting down the fork as well. I'm still sticking with my previous emails that Minka will prove to be Kevin Colbert's best trade ever. Look, that the beard does, when he gets bundled up and he has that big old beard, it does put weight on guys. Is he a little bit bigger? Is he probably enjoying maybe some of that Goodies original popcorn or something along those lines? I don't know. I think people make too big of deal. Come get me if Ben looks fat when he shows up at training camp. Come get me then.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm not a bit concerned about what Ben looks like right now, to be honest with you. Speaking of fat, Garrett Hunt writes in, James Washington fat. Did you hear the broadcast crew on Monday night talk about how last year the team was down on Washington? Among the reasons they mentioned that he was eating his way out of the league. Yeah, I kind of don't. Was he a little bit heavier than what they want him? Was his playing weight not conducive to him, being a little bit quicker or whatnot? Yeah, I think maybe that could have been the case, and that's probably why he dropped 15 pounds or whatever it was this offseason. Obviously, he had his rookie struggles, but this was the first that I heard of that. In fact, I only remember them talking about his superior conditioning and all day 4.5 speed. Did I miss this last year? I'm guessing that they had to get this information from somewhere for the broadcast. Not super important. Just caught me off guard. Look, I think they just probably thought he played a little bit too heavy as a rookie.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an exaggeration or not, but I think I said this on a previous podcast, is that the Steelers have mentioned his weight and his conditioning a lot. Any time that Fietner or Tomlin, whoever's been asked about Washington's improvement, the first thing they point to is showing up in OTAs and certainly training camp in great shape. So I think the weight was an issue last year. Was it as bad as the broadcast made it out to be? Was he really eating his way out of the league? That might be some little NBC spin on it, but yeah, I think it's fair to say that him getting in great shape has been one of the catalysts and keys to his sophomore success.
We've seen several players come in as rookies, make the jump in their second year from a conditional standpoint and do well. And James Washington is one of those guys this year.
Yep, absolutely.
Lee Greenspan writes in, hey guys, first off, David, Alex, you do a fantastic job. Always a pleasure to listen to both of you, even after a tough loss. Well, you've had to do that this week, that's for sure, Lee. Next thought, I was at the game Sunday night. I usually try to go once or twice a year, and the one thing that stood out to me was the amount of Bills fans at Heinz Field. I don't remember a visiting team crowd be that loud or have that many fans in the stadium before. Lastly, I talked to some fellow fans, and everyone is blindly rooting for the Titans to lose this week, but I have a different thought. So curious on both of your takes. Steelers obviously need to win this week. Then we are hoping the Ravens beat the Browns so they can rest their starters against us week 17. We also then need the Bucks to beat the Texans on Saturday and the Titans to beat the Saints on Sunday. So the Texans do not clinch the South. They are then forced to play their starters in week 17 when the Titans game actually matters for us. If the Texans win on Saturday, then this is obviously a moot point, and we would cheer against the Titans just on a fluke chance a tie in Week 17 gets us in. What do you think? Wow. Once again, I think the Texans still. I mean, it comes down to even if the Texans beat the Buccaneers, I think they still have something to play for when it comes to the third or fourth seed.
Yeah, I'm losing track of that scenario. I just know I'm rooting for Pittsburgh to win out, or Houston to beat Tennessee in Week 17, and Baltimore to beat Cleveland this week. I think that's the easiest and simplest way to look at it.
I guess do teams concern themselves if they're locked into the third or fourth seed, which one they have? Because it could mean.
Yeah, it depends. Changes who you play.
I mean, it could mean home field throughout the playoffs to some degree, right? I mean,
yeah, if you're a higher seed, you get better odds. I don't know. Again, I think that's wading into overthinking it, and just focus. The focus should just be on win this week. Baltimore beats Cleveland. Those are really the only two things that really matter. And obviously, it'd be nice if the Saints beat the Titans. It wouldn't change things dramatically, but it would help.
I guess it comes down to on Saturday, who do we want to win, Bucks and Texans? And I would say we'd want the Bucks to win, right?
So that Houston has something to play for in Week 17.
That we're ensured that the Texans have something to play for in Week 17, regardless of what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, because we don't have the rest of the games going on Saturday. We only have 3 games on Saturday. So I think we go into Saturday hoping that the Bucks beat the Texans.
Gotcha. I agree.
And then I think then we worry the outcome of that game from there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
But we're obviously not going to spend a lot of time on that aspect of it until we know another new scenario to talk about. Levi Garcia writes in, hey guys, great job as usual. 3 things. Why can't our OC run and set up our players for success with scheme and personnel, i.e. for 49ers play call? Look, it's easy to look at that as a black and white situation here, and once again, I caution you. You're dealing with a limited menu quarterback here. On top of it, can the offensive game plan be better? Absolutely.
Yeah, it needs to be better. And again, it starts with their protections because they're going to get tested again. They did not block things up well enough last week, and Greg Williams is going to test them again.
Number 2, when you guys see all 22, you guys break down immediately. Seems like guys understand formations. why can't our quarterbacks? Well, that's pretty a vague question. You want to tackle that? When you guys see all 22, you guys break down plays immediately. Seems like guys understand formations. Why can't our quarterbacks? Well, look, in your heat in the battle, there, pre-snap versus post-snap. It's easy for us to look at it afterwards and say, well, this guy rotated. This is what happened. This is what the coverage was.
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit of the armchair thing where I'm sure any quarterback could go through the tape, and I'm sitting in my office chair right now, be able to replay a play 10 different times and breaking it down, and maybe looking up an article really quickly. So I mean I think that's too broad of a way to paint it, and probably unfair to the quarterbacks. They're smarter than I am, at least.
Tony writes in, my name is Tony, pronounced Tony. Thank you for the great podcast. Been listening since season 2. I'm loving it more than ever. Normally, I'd like to save a broader picture thoughts for the end of the season, but here are a couple of conclusions I've come to, and I like your opinion as of now. Of course, the offseason is the time to dive deeper. Number one, I don't think that our OC and DC are all that good at being creative. I think they prefer head-to-head matchups and letting the best man prevail. But when you're as depleted as we are this year, that doesn't work. Tomlin's a good coach, but he doesn't have good coordinators. Play calling isn't that great. They aren't creative. Do people even know what they mean when they say stuff like this, Alex?
No, I think those things tend to be a little of the catch-all, unpredictable, not creative enough. I mean, sometimes that can be true, but without getting into specifics, it's kind of hard to really address it. That's why I wanted to do the deep dive into the protection breakdowns on Sunday that really kind of go into the nitty gritty of what happened. I mean, I get the overall point, but it's just hard to respond to it because it is, like I said, it's a little too catch all for my liking.
The thing that we get the most is they're not creative enough and they're predictable.
And it's not totally wrong. It's some of that's born out of having a revolving door really at every single position, certainly a quarterback, but again, that it's just those are the things that they've said about every OC ever. Haley, Arians, Wisenhunt, the next OC that replaces Fichtner at some point. It's always going to be associated, and I kind of reject that stuff because I'm into the specifics of it more than the vague generalities.
Yeah, we're more into how the sausage is made. We don't. Let's see. He goes on to say we don't have a quarterback in the future. I don't know what he was getting at. Number one, I guess he's wanting them to get rid of Butler and Randy Fichtner. I guess.
Well, don't hold your breath.
Number two, we don't have a quarterback in the future yet, at least not a franchise quarterback. I think Duck can grow a lot, will have a good future in the league, but Fichtner hasn't done a lot for him yet. So do you draft a quarterback every year with your first pick until you get a franchise quarterback? By the way, was it just me or was Ben looking pretty chunky? Yikes. Thanks again for the great podcast. I'm loving it. Look, Ben's hopefully going to be your quarterback for at least through 2021. So people want to get on this. Well, who's your franchise quarterback going to be? We don't know just yet. There's the odds and the limited tape tell you thus far that neither Mason Rudolph or Devlin Hodges is going to be Tom Brady or Russell Wilson or Drew Brees. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say at this point. I probably wouldn't draft one in 2020. I think you want to really just go all in on the guys that you have and build around Ben and really kind of build this thing up for one last Super Bowl run. And when you have more limited draft capital, the Steelers are gonna have without a first round pick and some other draft picks in there too. I think the focus has to be on rounding out the roster as opposed to trying to find a franchise quarterback again.
I'm worried about what's going to happen next season. That's about as far as I can go out because I might not live much longer than that.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's the approach. You it would be a disappointment to not get another Super Bowl win or at least appearance with Ben, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, you got next year and the year after, and you got a defense that should mostly be intact.
So the focus has to be on getting as close as you can to that mark.
Right.
That's
now, when you get into 2021, you're going to have that draft there. You're probably going to have a little bit better idea what you have and don't have at quarterback behind Ben at that situation. But you might be that one safety, defensive pass rusher, whatever, away from making sure you get a Super Bowl that year,
Mm-hmm.
on top of it. And odds are good anyway. If you're picking at past the top 10, are you going to get the franchise guy at quarterback,
Right. Yeah, you don't know.
and I talked about the Cleveland Browns this way for years. Once you don't have a franchise quarterback, then at that point, I draft 2 quarterbacks every year in hopes that one of those guys can be a franchise. That might seem a little bit extreme, okay? But if you don't have a franchise quarterback, you're probably not going to win a Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
plain and simple. But I don't think I'm worrying about that in the first round until I get, maybe at least to 2021. But even then, where are you going to be picking in 2021? Is that going to be conducive to drafting a first round franchise quarterback?
Yeah, more likely not than someone's going to fall into your lap. But yeah, I think again, I'm with you, Dave. Take it year by year, and I think for 2020, you're focusing on building up the rest of this roster to take it to a Super Bowl.
Bob Turner writes in, hello, Dave. Tough loss last night. Too many turnovers and 5-yard penalties. The turning point was after the big interception returned by Nelson and fumbling the ball away on the first play. Hodges wasn't drafted because he doesn't have an NFL arm. His pocket presence was not good last night and helped lead to some of the sacks. Rudolph was a mess in that first Cleveland game. That being said, Paxton Lynch has been in their building for more than 2 months. He was a first-round draft pick. He has a great arm and can move for his size. He has started a few NFL games, although he didn't play well. I guess he's lacking in fundamentals or between the ears because there has been zero talk of giving him a shot. He does have the arm talent that Hodges doesn't have, and he has a better arm than Rudolph. Neither Hodges nor Rudolph have shown they can manage a game well. Rudolph had a great stats in college, has the size, but only managed to be a third-round pick. Is it worth a shot to start Lynch? What do you think? No.
No. Nope.
No. No, we don't. Ross McCarkle writes in, hey, Dave and I have a question regarding the play where it looked like Frank Gore was going to throw a pass. Why doesn't that count as a sack, tackling an active passer? I think Watt was in, or it should maybe be credited another half. Thanks for all you guys do. Do you remember the play he's talking about?
I do. It was around the 10-yard line. Gore was like half-heartedly looking to throw it. It certainly was the potential for a pass on that play. I don't know if running backs that try to throw the ball even more, obviously than Gore still go down to sacks or not. I'm not sure how that is, but in that scenario, I mean, Gore was barely into a passing motion. I understand, and I'm okay with the NFL counting that as just a one-play tackle.
Yeah, I think it's more of a how convinced are you that it's going to be a pass? Does he have the option? Yeah, you get into a gray area where you're making a subjective call for the official score, and there obviously probably Elias has looked at it, and they didn't think it was worthy of a sack either.
And I'm not sure, like I said, even if if a running back makes an obvious pass attempt but never actually throws the ball, does that go down as a sack? Or is that broken up like that? Do you know?
Say again?
Like, let's say that Gore would have, really reared back and almost threw, but then got tackled by T.J. Watt. Does that go down as a sack? Are there halfback failed passes that do get counted as sacks? Or I thought I thought they all got counted just as tackles. Like they didn't go down as a sack.
Yeah, I would have to look, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. Yeah. But anyway, I'm fine with the decision there.
Jeff Dudash writes in, Dave and Alex, I may have had too much to drink, so correct me if I'm wrong, but on the critical 4th and 7 with 2 minutes remaining, I believe Steelers had a package on the field that included Jalen Samuels, Nick Vannett, and Zach Gentry. Duck Hodges isn't a good quarterback, but can any quarterback be successful with that grouping? Yeah, look, I think we talked about this the other day, and you even had a timeout to fix it.
Well, I mean, looking back at it, my thought was, okay, you're in 4th and long in that situation. The Bills are probably going to bring a blitz again. I thought that was going to be the time where they were going to counter the blitzes they couldn't pick up by having a 7-man protection by keeping an extra tight end in, which would have made sense. I'd been fine with that. But they sent Gentry out on a little check release anyway. They didn't have him block the nickel corner that was blitzing. So, what's the point? So had they used that to defend the blitzes that have been killing them all game long, I would have been fine with that. But they didn't, and I don't know. It was a mess. I don't know what's going on there.
All right, I think we've gone through. I think, needless to say, we're expecting this offense, especially the offense, to have a a much better week of preparation here. Here's the thing too: Jets have a long week here. So they get a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit even extra more time to prepare for the Steelers, which really puts more of an onus on the Steelers offense to make sure they get it together this week. I mean, whatever it is, they're going to have to do a better job at running the football overall. Be dedicated to it more. You wouldn't expect the Jets to come out and blister you for 30 points. If they
Hmm.
if they do, game over anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's just no way to get around with that. But yeah, there's a lot more pressure, in my opinion, on the Steelers' offensive game staff to put together a plan that allows you to have more success running football and do the things that you think that you can do well and stay ahead of the chains and put your quarterback in more manageable third down situations. If you get behind the chains again, but here's the thing that gets me, Alex, going back to the game against the Bills. You didn't run the football a lot with in that game, but you did have the success rate, 50% success rate, I think, that tells you, look, we probably should have ran the ball more.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you. I think for me, the adjustment this week starts with the coaching staff. I think they were miserable on both sides of the ball, more so obviously on offense and defense, but even defensively, there were some issues and some breakdowns and things Buffalo out schemed and outclassed Pittsburgh in. So I think if you're going to win this game, the coaching staff has to do a whole lot better of a job.
And yeah, you are deficient. And look, you might be without Juju again this week, but you should have your whole line still intact there. Johnson's come on, Washington's come on a little bit there. You got James Conner, like I said, you're gonna have back there again. Uh, no reason to get into a 17-16 loss again.
Yeah, the Jets are a better team, but it's a game that you should win, game that you need to win, and you got to have a better game plan, a better schematic, advantage in this one.
What'd you say? The Jets are the better team?
No, I mean, Steelers, are the better
Okay.
team, but that doesn't mean you're going to win. You got to have a better scheme because the Jets are. I think the Jets are a better team than they were previously. I should have clarified that. They started the year really poorly. They've played better as of late, though. They've played some competitive games.
Yeah, since the whole mono thing and since Darnold's come back and kind of get situated. Now look, they you can tell offensively they're having some gaffes as well too. But that Robbie Anderson, he's a hell of a damn.
Mm-hmm.
he's a
Vertical
he,
threat.
I mean, he's a hell of a damn wide receiver, right?
Yep.
And Le'Veon Bell, if they use him right. Can obviously be look, the problem that they're going to have is if they get in third and long situations as well too with their tackles and whatnot. Kelvin Beachum, bless his heart, but he should have his hands full with Bud Dupree on that one side, and on the other side, Watt should be able. They can't keep those tight ends in all the time chipping.
Yeah, guys, they like to throw their tight ends first of all, and I know the Jets just put one of their tackles on IR today. One of the rookie from USC. I think he's been out for a couple weeks, but yeah, I mean that line is attackable.
All right, we'll try to get us a beat writer together by Friday's show. We'll have our picks for you as well, too. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com for $25, you can have one by going to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, sign up that way through PayPal. $25. You win, we win, everybody wins on top of that. So, until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.